Apologies for how long it's been since I've added to this idiot's guide on how to make the dark a bit more safer. But after a bout from a skinwalker that got infected, I wasn't exactly prioritizing this. Regardless, I'm back now and have a few $100 shorter. So, I decided to fix two problems in one go by talking about my next prey, Wendigos. Now, let's get something clear here. I do not recommend these beasties as a beginner hunter's first prey. There's no such thing as an easy hunt, but there sure as hell is such a thing as a more dangerous one. This one especially, because not only the creatures, but because of all the misinformation about said creatures. You see, the first thing you have to know about them is that there's actually three creatures called Wendigo. You try and hunt the wrong one, with the right methods, for another, then you'll be scraps in an instant. Or worse, possessed. But let's start with the least of the three. But by no means is it something not to be afraid of. Keep that in mind. Modern, or rather southern Wendigo. Where it came from, I have no idea. But this Wendigo is similar to a rake, except it walks upright. It wears a giant deer skull over its head. Now, the body itself will look thin and decomposing, and will smell like a rotten corpse. That said, it will have bipedal legs with deer hooves on its back legs. Most tend to believe they came from a messed up experiment from southern native witch doctors, or what you'd call skinwalkers, trying to shift into a Wendigo, making an abomination of a creature that is more beast than a werewolf, and far more sadistic than a shifter. See, while they aren't as smart, or clever as some other beasties, they are still smart enough to know how to keep their victims alive when they start eating. Hell, not only that, they like to encounter humans and play with them. One of the few creatures that goes out of the way to encounter people over animals. That said, they will have their own territory, and will also hunt in packs. Either they breed, or use a ritual to produce more numbers, is a fact that no one has found out as of yet, and for good reason. The greatest thing about these beasties is the fact that it's usually pretty easy to distinguish it from another kind of Wendigo if the client gives an accurate description. That said, I know a few assholes who lied about what the creature is just so they wouldn't have to pay as much, so be careful taking their word as law. Got plenty of funny stories with that one right there. Anyways, other than that, they're similar to hunting rakes, except they will enjoy seeing you in fear, and any distractions like a noisy toy and nice steak won't catch their attention. What will? You just leaving. See, they aren't stupid, but they sure as hell ain't smart, as they will be hyper-focused on you. So if you start to leave the woods or the territory they've carved out, then, well, they will attempt to catch you. So once you notice one tailing you, just start to leave. From there, either lead it into a bear trap, or get in your car and run it over when it barrels down the trail after you. From there, pump it full of lead, preferably with a 12-gauge slug, or just enough to make its limbs almost fall off, and then chop off its limbs. Trust me, its talons are far sharper than they look, and despite having a deer skull, it definitely doesn't have an herbivore's teeth. There's been anomalies where they have more patience and will even stalk prey to their houses in the city. They also have an irrational fear of fire. Of course, burning them alive will kill them, and honestly, if possible, that's another good option. If you have a gasoline can and have it pinned down, but they really hate fire, for whatever reason. Now, at this point, you might think this sounds familiar to how to hunt other monsters, but trust me, it's not. Because unlike werewolves, skinwalkers, rakes, or most monsters, all three Wendigos don't have a sense of smell, or a sense of taste. Meaning, they track with a strange sense that's hard to explain. Regardless, don't try and use your werewolf kit against them. In fact, it's a good time to bring up white ash. Especially white ash made by a medicine man is very useful against them. It will not straight up kill it unless you shoot it in the heart. But even then, I'd recommend chopping it up and bringing that body to the nearest medicine man. If you can't find one, burn the hell out of the body, and make sure that the only thing left is more white ash. That's that for the first tap. Now, let's move on to what you'd call a real Wendigo. It's what's talked about most among northern Native American tribes and Canadian tribes. They will rarely be seen in the South, and even more rarely near civilization. These things will be pale, scrawny, beyond belief. Seriously, they will look like a swift breeze may carry them off. If not for the unreal swiftness and a giant stature of these things. Now their heads will be smaller, and they will have no genitalia that suggest male or female. Their fingers will end in points, and their rotten maws will be filled with broken and shattered teeth, broken to points. How these things were made? Well, by the first and worst kind of Wendigo. But we'll get to that. Let's just say there could be multiple of these things, and the only time they'll work together is the torture stage. The time where they will play with their food, as they are intelligent, more so than you could think. They are like a frozen zombie with supernatural quickness and a terrible sense of humor. During one hunt, I accompanied a fresh hunter who hired me to help put down his ex-girlfriend, who turned into one, and munched on all their friends, and, well, she used their chewed bones to spell out coward. They are demented, but still somewhat human, although the worst of what you'd call human. If it's really what's underneath us all, or if it's just whatever the creature is. It's nasty. Let's just say that, and leave it at that. But, because of that nature, you can only expect the absolute worst out of these ghouls. The only time they'll rush at you is when they feel like you're going to leave immediately their territory. Otherwise, the strategy of just leaving a bear trap and letting them run at you won't work. They will take their time, and they will be rational until someone provokes them into attacking, such as attempting to leave. Best chance you have is to get their attention, and try your best not to fall for their attempts to gourd you into their woods, and just walk away. That said, they are faster, and seem to flicker, so if you can afford it, I'd recommend a flamethrower. If not, then I'd recommend white ash bullets and gasoline. Pour it out on the ground and light it up the moment you hear it come near. It will fear the fire, and yet the desire for flesh will compel it to lunge for you regardless, throwing it off its game while giving you even more light to shoot the bastard. Every one of them will be different, and some of them will catch themselves on fire, and others will double down on their mimicry. If they lunge, make sure you only have one outlet where there's an open spot. But even then, they may be willing to catch fire to take a bite out of you. If they just continue to mimic, then keep it in mind that the closer they sound, the farther they are. And the further they sound, the closer they are. From there, do as the situation dictates. However, beware they could be more, and that they are smart. But once you get one down, don't get close, because they can play dead. Unless they are on fire, because they will not stop howling if they are on fire. From there, keep burning them if they aren't already cooking, and do it until they stop moving. That about wraps up my general advice for them. But if you're like that poor sod I helped out, put an end to his ex, just know you're much better off just having another hunter deal with your loved ones. As for the third and most difficult Wendigo, it's the Wendigo spirit, or rather the real Wendigo. Born from starvation and greed, it is the embodiment of human desperation, and winter itself. What makes it far more dangerous is the fact that killing its hosts, which will look very similar to the northern Wendigo, just bigger and calmer, will only make it jump hosts. Anyone could become its host. Unlike a northern Wendigo, you don't have to eat flesh to become a host. For its spirit, you simply have to get driven mad until you change. If you ever feel off from a hunt after killing a Wendy, then immediately go to a medicine man and have him cleanse you. Wendigo spirits tend to be around and roam northern states, Canada and Alaska. However, most Wendigo cases of the type 2 varieties come from a wandering spirit Wendigo host, who either influences a person or a group into consuming flesh. And that is how the second type become Wendigos. Most of the time, it will then leave and let them wreak havoc. But there have been cases where a spirit has commanded a horde of Wendigos. One such case, spirit began to take over an entire town of Michigan, turn them all into ghouls until they bombed the area with napalm, which is a great way to kill the buggers if you know how to make it mind you. Then the National Guard made a perimeter around the town, while they made the UFAM clean up the mess with the help of some medicine men. If you see a spirit, it can't be killed, but it can be trapped. Medicine men can do this. However, if it's just you, then you need to capture the host and cut out its frozen heart. Don't stab it or burn it, even if it's regenerating. Put it in a silver box and take it to a medicine man. If you can't afford one, like me, just make a steel box occasionally. Burn the cramped Wendy growing inside. The medicine man will take it from there, and the job will be complete. However, I implore you, do not go after a Wendigo spirit. They are far more than even an experienced hunter can handle, let alone whatever idiot is actually listening to this. I've lost my fair share of fellows to them, be it through claws and teeth, or because they became just another host for it. But if you do make a deal with a medicine man, let it be, preferably one under an hour or two away. And I hope you don't have to know what it's like having it in your head. That's it for this one. But just remember that gasoline is your best friend, and so is the hunter who's willing to put you down if you ask for it.